Welcome to Books for Success. Today, we're delving into the wisdom within The Sleep Prescription by Aric Prather. The Sleep Prescription, 2022, is a practical guide to getting out of your own way and changing your behaviors to set yourself up for a better night's sleep. It features 7 days of clinical psychologist and sleep expert Dr. Aric Prather's best tools and practices for finally achieving the healthy, restorative sleep we all need to feel our best. Who's it for? Anyone who wants to improve their sleep. Those suffering from insomnia. People who want to learn about the science behind sleep. Subscribe and ring the bell for notifications if you want to keep receiving the knowledge of book summaries about health, wealth, love, psychology, and much more. Don't be shy about dropping your book suggestions for us to summarize. Also, you can use this video as an audiobook summary. Let's grow and succeed together. What's in it for me? Learn how to dramatically improve the quality of your sleep in just 7 days. Sleep is essential. Much like air, water, and food, we need it to survive. So why has something so natural and important become so difficult to do? The answer has 2 parts. For one, we're living in a world that just isn't designed for good sleep. Our fast-paced modern lives come with so many pressures and priorities that rest often comes last. What's the second factor impacting our sleep? Us. Unintentionally, we make decisions throughout the day that later impact our sleep. We think good sleep starts when we go to bed at night, but it really starts with the choices we make as soon as we get up in the morning. In this summary, you're going to become your own sleep scientist and discover a week's worth of best practices and tools for improving sleep. In each section, we'll start by taking a look at common issues that can affect our sleep quality and finish up with practical exercises to combat them. Ready to finally get out of your own way and unlock a better night's sleep? Let's get started. Day 1. Resetting your master clock. Giraffes sleep less than 5 hours a day, while lions need 16 to 20 hours of rest. The albatross, a giant bird that can travel thousands of miles in a single journey, can achieve REM sleep in flight. And hippos can even sleep underwater. Every organism has its own unique sleep rhythm. And as far as humans go, we're pretty boring. Most adults need around 7 to 8 hours a night to feel their best. It's pretty simple, and yet it's become increasingly difficult to achieve. Why? Because our sleep cycles are being thrown out of whack. If you're trying to improve your sleep, odds are you've heard of the circadian rhythm. This is basically a master clock that determines the rhythm of the cells in your body. Part of this is inherited in DNA, which is why some people are more likely to be early risers and others night owls. While this rhythm is partially genetic, it can also be influenced by external factors. The arousal systems inside our brains are constantly collecting information about the world around us, and this process has a big impact on our ability to sleep. For example, darkness is a powerful cue for the body to start producing the sleep hormone melatonin, while daylight triggers the release of cortisol. Our bodies are also very attuned to our habits and daily routines. In a process called entrainment, our bodies recognize certain landmarks throughout the day, like when we eat our meals or the time we typically go to bed. By recognizing these signals, the body can anticipate what's next and optimize its functions accordingly. Which brings us to our first exercise. For day 1, your mission is to pick a specific wake-up time and stick to it every day for the rest of the week. Sounds simple, but this has a powerful effect on our circadian rhythms, making it the #1 strategy to combat sleep struggles. Day 2. Cutting down on stress. If you've ever had a bad night's sleep, you know how jumpy and anxious it can make you feel the next day. Sleep and stress are deeply intertwined in a couple of ways. First, our body's stress response can affect our sleep quality. However, you might be surprised to learn that this isn't always a huge issue. When it comes to everyday stressors like family, work, or finances, we're fairly resilient. Our bodies are actually very good at managing stress, so much so that daytime stress isn't always a good predictor of sleep quality. In other words, you can have a very stressful day and still get a good night's sleep. The second connection between stress and sleep is much more powerful. Our quality of sleep determines how we handle stress. In fact, studies have shown that people actually perceived events as more stressful when they didn't get enough sleep the night before. When we go through our day stressed, we make choices that will negatively impact us later on, like that afternoon coffee you know is going to be a bad idea, but still drink anyway. We also tend to choose less healthy foods and even get into more arguments with the people around us. This may sound bad, but the sleep stress cycle is actually a good thing because it gives us two chances to intervene. If we learn to regulate our stress response, we can see real benefits for our sleep. By improving our sleep, we can naturally bring down our stress levels. I know what you're thinking sounds great, but how? By taking breaks. Your exercise for day 2 is to make time for 5 stress-busting, micro breaks throughout the day. These can be 5, 10, or 15 minutes long. You can read, meditate, or take a long walk. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as it gives you a moment to relax and unwind. Day 3, recharging the right way. It's 3 p.m., you're sitting at your desk, and you feel your energy starting to wane. You wonder, did I not get enough sleep last night, or is my blood sugar just low? To power through the rest of your day, you reach for a 3rd cup of coffee. Sound familiar? This mid-afternoon period of low energy is actually perfectly normal. It's a natural part of the circadian rhythm we learned about on day 1. While everyone's rhythms vary slightly, we all tend to follow a similar pattern. As we wake in the morning, our alertness levels begin to rise, peaking a few hours later. By the early afternoon, these levels start to dip, reaching their lowest point around 3 p.m. in the evening. They rebound a bit before finally declining as we transition into sleep. And what is nearly everyone's solution to the 3 p.m. dip in energy? You guessed it, caffeine. In fact, coffee is one of the most popular drinks on the planet. Around the world, 26,000 cups of coffee are consumed per second. When trying to improve their sleep, many people worry that they'll have to give up on their caffeine addiction. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to. The problem isn't what you're drinking. It's when you're drinking it. It can take caffeine around 10 hours to fully clear your system, so just be mindful of when you indulge in your last cup. Plus, there are lots of great ways to get over the mid-afternoon hump without affecting your sleep later on. When your body is craving caffeine, what it actually wants is movement, fresh air, and a change of scenery. On day 3, instead of heading for the coffee machine, get up and take a short walk outside. Anything that switches up your routine and gets you moving will give your energy levels a quick boost. Day 4, tackling worry and sleep anxiety. As humans, we're complex creatures. What sets us apart from other mammals is our capacity for imagination. This is a pretty great thing and the root of most of our success as a species. However, our capacity for imagination also comes with downsides, namely anxiety, worry, and rumination. Throughout our busy days, it's much easier to quickly move past anxious thoughts than to confront them. However, as soon as we lie down in bed, these worries come back to haunt us. This process of rumination, where we replay past events in our minds, is considered one of the major causes of insomnia. The problem is that to sleep, we need to let go and relinquish control, while rumination requires our minds to be on high alert. Another issue is that certain neural pathways in our brains become more deeply ingrained as we use them. In other words, the more we worry, the more susceptible we are to it. Again, this sounds bad, but it's actually good news. While some aspects of our sleep are out of our control, our own minds can be managed. Thankfully, there are lots of things we can do proactively during the day to ensure a peaceful night. It may sound strange, but for day 4's exercise, you're going to set aside a specific chunk of time to intentionally worry. Pick a time that works best for you and set a timer for 15 minutes. Once the timer starts, feel free to worry about whatever you like. Think about what's bothering you or go through your to-do list. But when the time is up, stop and return to calmer thinking patterns. If you find yourself starting to worry at other points during the day, remind yourself to save these thoughts for your scheduled worry time, and simply let them pass you by. Day 5, making time for a wind-down routine. When we start to drift off to sleep, it feels pretty gradual, right? Actually, at a neurological level, it's more like flipping a switch. The body's production of melatonin is one of the main drivers of this process. Remember how we talked about darkness as a cue for melatonin production? This is actually where we tend to run into problems. Unlike our ancestors, our sleep cycles don't rely on the rising and setting of the sun anymore. We're bathed in artificial light right up until we crawl into bed. Research has shown that the blue light emitted by electronic devices can suppress melatonin production in the same way that natural sunlight does. Over the past few years, blue light has been highlighted as a major cause of insomnia, but it isn't the sole culprit. The real issue with using electronic devices near bedtime is that our brains become too engaged. Whether you're watching an exciting new episode of a show or replying to emails, your brain is getting the same message: wake up. This can spell disaster when it's finally time for sleep. So what's the solution? The wind down. For day 5's exercise, you're going to create your own wind down routine to help you transition into sleep more easily. You can choose whatever relaxing activities you want, like reading or taking a warm bath, but there are a few important rules you'll need to follow. First, you should start winding down about 2 hours before you want to sleep. If you need to, set an alarm for 2 hours before your bedtime. Second, once the alarm goes off, stop all arousing activities. This means no more work, and yes, I'm sorry, no social media. Instead, use this time to focus on relaxation to encourage your brain to start preparing for sleep. Day 6. Rewiring your brain for sleep. These days, our lives are largely shaped by things that are out of our control. Our routines are based on work, school, and other scheduled obligations. Throughout all of this, our brains are constantly taking in information, responding to stimuli, and anticipating our needs. When it comes to sleep, one of the biggest triggers is our beds. Your bed can be an incredibly powerful cue to let your body know that it's time for sleep. However, it can also work in the opposite way. A common issue the author encounters in his sleep clinic is people feeling sleepy before going to bed but wide awake once they get there. Some even describe the feeling as a switch being flipped. What's happening is something called conditioned arousal. Basically, these individuals have spent so much time doing non-sleep activities in bed that their bodies now associate the bed with wakefulness. On day 1, we learned that picking a scheduled wake-up time is the #1 rule for improving sleep. Rule number 2 is this: don't get into bed unless you're ready to sleep. This is the strategy we'll implement on day 6. We want to make sure that your body recognizes your bed as a place of rest, not wakefulness. To start conditioning yourself this way, follow a few simple steps. First, don't force yourself into bed if you're not sleepy. If you don't feel like you're ready to go to bed after your 2-hour wind down, it's perfectly fine to extend it. Second, if you're in bed tossing and turning, get up and do one of the relaxing activities you picked during the wind down exercise. Once you start to feel sleepy, head back to bed and try again. And finally, go easy on yourself. Sleep anxiety is one of the worst causes of insomnia, so just relax and give your body and mind time to adjust. Day 7. Staying up late to build sleep pressure. The stimulus control that we learned about on day 6 works in 2 ways. First, it helps train your body to associate your bed with feelings of sleepiness. Second, it helps rev up your homeostatic sleep drive, a kind of pressure that builds up the longer you're awake. You might find it useful to envision this process as inflating a balloon. As soon as you wake up in the morning, the balloon starts to inflate as sleep pressure gradually builds up. When the balloon is full, hopefully at bedtime, you feel the urge to sleep. This sleep drive is one of the most powerful weapons we have against insomnia, which is why it's the focus of day 7's practice: sleep restriction. This is exactly what it sounds like. If you're still having trouble sleeping, the solution is to stay up really late. The author has found that some patients in his clinic are hesitant about this idea at first because they think it will result in less sleep. In reality, it just means less time in bed. As we discussed earlier, if you're in bed and not able to sleep, you're actually doing more harm than good. For day 7's exercise, hit the sack as late as possible. Then try to stick to this very late bedtime for about a week. This allows for sleep debt to build up. This way, by the end of the week, you'll actually start to feel tired during your wind down time. When you find that you're falling asleep faster and sleeping better through the night, you can gradually start moving your bedtime up, bit by bit. If you reach a plateau, this is a good sign that you found your ideal sleep schedule. Final words. Sleep is an essential part of our lives, but it's also become an increasingly difficult thing to do. The world around us is not conducive to proper sleep, and the decisions we make during our busy, hectic days aren't helping much either. The good news is that we have the power to change our behaviors and make choices that set us up for success at the end of the day. Throughout this summary, we've covered 7 practices that you can use to refresh your body, mind, and surroundings to promote better sleep. Everyone possesses the capacity for improved sleep, and these new tools can finally help you unlock it. Thanks for being part of our insightful voyage. If our summary piqued your interest, we encourage you to dive into the complete book for a deeper understanding. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content if you're new here, and share it with others who might find it valuable. Keep on reading, discovering, and advancing until our next adventure.